you are live.
Welcome everybody to yet another live dive. I'm Pat and I'm diving today off Devil's Grotto here in Grand Cayman on the west side of the island. Joining me today on camera we have Rian, and up on the surface is my girl Lauren.
Thank you, Pat. Hi there. So Pat, you look quite shallow there. What depth are you at?
Yes, I'm very shallow right now. I'm on the top of a very, very high coral vomit. It is only 2 meters deep right now, so about not even 10 feet down at the moment. But the light is just spectacular here right now, and as you can see, we've got an array of fish underneath us. We've got parrotfish, which are the brown and the blue fish. Some blue tang, which are the disc-shaped blue fish. Little blue chromis, they're all blue at the moment. Little blue chromis, they're the tiny little blue ones with the really, really forked tail. Now today I am on the lookout for maybe some angelfish and an anemone, a giant anemone, because they are gorgeous. I'm not going to set my hopes too high today because every time I do, I don't get what I'm looking for, so I'm going to try a bit of reverse psychology on the ocean today.
Pat, I have a really good feeling about your dive today, and because you're so shallow, the reef is looking beautiful.
Yeah, it is gorgeous down here today. It's really, really special. So we have finally had some sunny weather again here in Cayman. So as you can see, the light is penetrating these shallow areas very well, and we've got quite a good scene.
Well, I would like to request a moray eel, if that's not too much.
Yes, after your failed attempt to find one this morning, I'm sure I can do that for you.
So please do send in your questions with the hashtag diveLIVE on Twitter, and you can also ask them on YouTube and Facebook as well. So please don't hesitate to tell us what you would like to see. It's not always easy to find things, but if you do really want to see things, you can let us know and we will do our very best.
Yeah.
So James is asking for an indigo hamlet, Pat. That's a good one.
But yes, most definitely, James. We will look for that. Indeed, they are a bit of a rare sighting here on the reef, but they are a beautiful little fish. So I'll definitely keep my eyes peeled for an indigo hamlet, or just any sort of hamlet for that matter.
Well, this is Megan's first time, so hi Megan, thank you for joining us, and we really hope you enjoy the dive today. Feel free to ask any questions.
Yes, welcome. So I haven't actually ever, I'm sure I've been over to this part of the reef before, but I've never really taken notice. This is really gorgeous. It's very complex. There's a lot of really high-rising bommies here, and they're kind of overhanging as well. It's a really good spot of the reef. I'm surprised I haven't been here more often.
Well, Weedy in Washington is asking about crinoids and starfish, and that's really interesting because that was one of the first things I noticed when I came here, was a complete lack of starfish around. We really don't find them here, from the small sea stars to the big cushion stars, but apparently there is areas of the Grand Cayman where you can see them. And we have a trumpet fish in front of us right now.
Yeah, sitting there very, very silently and still. It's probably resting, although they do tend to stand there very, not stand, sit there very, very still as a predation technique. So they wait until they're essentially camouflaged into the environment and nothing is noticing them, and that's when they strike.
Yeah, we're getting a real clear view of it right now, especially the mouth, and you can actually see how big that mouth is for such a narrow, slender creature.
Yeah, it's actually a good technique for them, because, well, not technique, it's a good modification of their mouth for them, because they can use it to hide behind. So when they approach prey front on, because they've got such a long, slender body and a big mouth, they can really hide behind that mouth when they're coming straight on. And we can see towards the end of its mouth, it has little barbers, which are the little almost like a little beard coming off its mouth there, and that is just a sensory organ, so they can sense things better.
So Sammy Jane has actually noticed the fairy basslets hanging around there. So yep, oh, there's a parrotfish. Just around the trumpetfish to the left is a small fairy basslet. A very small fish. It's difficult to see in detail, but it's bright purple and bright yellow. And it's actually hanging upside down right now. So yes, this is a fairy basslet.
Yes, they are a very interesting little creature, the fairy basslets. Quite a good, obviously they're very, very, very small, but this is made up by their brilliant colours, so they don't tend to camouflage very well.
So Ravinder is requesting a squirrel fish. So we normally do see them, so let's point out squirrel fish if we find one. And hi Helen from home, thank you for joining again, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, definitely. Find a squirrel fish. They do like these types of environments where it's very cracked. Oh, we've got a zero swimming straight for us right now.
Oh yeah, hello.
You can really see those muscular torpedo body shapes there with this fish. They are a very predatory fish, and so they really need those quick bursts of speed that come from a muscular, streamlined body.
Yeah, they are in the mackerel family, and oh, that was a barjack just taking a feed, I think. This is both the Cerro and the barjacks are very top predators. They're both predatory fish, and you can see this from their streamlined body. They normally have really sharp forked tails, and this is for speed. Because they are predators, they have the need for speed. So a few people commented on the similarity of the trumpetfish to the seahorse, and that's correct, well spotted. The trumpetfish are really closely related to the seahorse, so there is some similar resemblances there. And unfortunately, we don't see too many seahorses here, but that would be a great find for diveLIVE.
Yeah, so the seahorse is pretty rare to see. So at least we can get their cousins in the trumpetfish quite frequently here.
Janine on Twitter is mentioning that she needs a turtle fix, so don't we all? And it would be great to find Gretchen for you as well.
Yes, definitely always keeping our eyes out for a turtle. I haven't had a turtle for a couple of weeks now, so I'm also itching for one, so that would be great if one came and greeted us.
So we're getting a really nice view right now. You must be under an overhang or a crevice, and floating upside down we have a lionfish.
I actually can't see it. I'm out of the cave right now just to manage these cables, but yes, it is quite common to find lionfish under these really dark cracks and caves.
Yeah, I think Rian is doing his best to find us squirrel fish, because they also hang in these caves. But if we can just see that lionfish again, you can see it's actually swimming upside down. And it's probably trying its best to hide in a dark place, but we've probably interrupted it. And again, we see lionfish on most of our dives because they are invasive species here, and they've overpopulated and there's just way too many.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I'm not sure whether we have just been better at spotting them, but when we first started diving here, we didn't see too many lionfish. It's only been the last 2 or 3 weeks that there's been a lot hanging around, so I'm not sure what's causing this, but yeah, it is interesting to note.
That's a really good point, Pat, actually. We didn't notice them too much at the start. Maybe we've just got more expert in the area. It's a good point. So you can see it is a obviously dark overhang that Rian is in right now, but there is a lot of life there. A lot of the nocturnal fish, the ones that are way more active at nighttime, will hang out and hide in the sort of dark safety zone of a crevice. So it might look just like a sort of dark cave, but there will be a lot of life hiding out there which won't come out until the nighttime.
Now, I'm just Want to have a look over here at this brain coral, Brian? You can come over this way. So there is a brain coral here, and I'm not sure whether it's diseased or whether it's really just been predated on a lot, but it does look very discoloured, and it looks like it's dying, but it doesn't appear to be bleaching. It's just got really dark patches all over it.
Oh, let's take a look.
How are you with coral disease, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm pretty good with corals and disease. So just to give you a bit background there, we're looking at a brain coral, which is boulder shape. And coral disease has become really prominent, I would say, in the last 50 years. And it is said to be induced by human activity. There's now many diseases which coral are suffering from. And you're right, Pat. I don't think this is disease. I wonder why it's so miscoloured. So for those looking at this brain coral, the sort of brighter parts, the yellower parts, that's very alive. You can tell that's thriving. But what Pat's talking about is the sort of darker patches on this green coral. But it still looks alive.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like the actual coral skeleton itself has been degraded anyway. It's just got patches of different colours, so it's quite interesting.
Maybe it is in the process of bleaching, so it's just starting to expel the algae and lose its colour. Maybe it's just the beginning part of it, but that is I've got a wee shark-nosed pufferfish there. It's very cute. But yeah, this brain coral is very interesting. I'm going to research this. I'm a bit of a coral junkie.
So down here on the sand, we actually have a blue tang feeding through the sand. This is another odd thing to see. So blue tangs are herbivorous fish, and they feed on algae. So they would usually just pick through the rocks and come up to any kind of hard surface with algae and pick it off. But this one is actually sifting through the sand. And I'm not sure why it's doing that.
Yeah, that's really unusual. Normally blue tangs are in schools, like Pat mentioned, so to just see it alone, maybe it's in the wandering phase. It does have different social phases, and sometimes they can go alone, and it is called wandering. So it's left the school, and it's just independently travelling across the reef to try and find more food. So this is possibly what this little tang is doing. It does look very alone. Oh! There's a little poop there. So blue tangs are grazers. They will continuously all day long just be grazing the reef for algae. The algae doesn't quite meet their nutritional requirements, and therefore they need to feed heavy and feed hard.
Wow.
So we do have a lot of questions, Pat, about the coral. So maybe if we can just go to another hard coral, whether it's a brain.
Well, I was actually just going to show everyone just the topography of this big crop here of coral. So I'll point out, maybe we'll go to a star coral here while we answer some coral questions.
Yeah, so let me just get those questions for you. So some people are just confused by coral. They've mentioned that they're confused, and some people are just asking about the basic biology of coral itself. So maybe you want to explain about the polyps and just the basic 101 of coral, Pat.
Yeah, for sure. So, a coral is an animal, first things first. So they look like a plant, but they are actually an animal. Now, if we look at this star coral here, we can see that it's got all of these little kind of wart-like projections all over it. And each of these is the house for an individual animal. So the basic building blocks of a coral is a calcium carbonate house with a little polyp, which is a little animal that looks like an anemone. It really just resembles a small anemone. It's got tentacles and a mouth. And the tentacles grab food and feed it into its mouth. So each one of these is a polyp in its coral. It's a calcium carbonate home. And so they reproduce asexually by essentially cloning themselves, and that's how they make these colonies that we're seeing on the rock right now. Now, another really important part about corals is that they have an algae that lives inside of them. And now they are in an obligate symbiotic relationship, which means they rely on one another to survive. So the coral provides a home and shelter for the algae, and in return, the algae photosynthesizes energy and other nutrients for the coral. So it's essentially feeding the coral from the inside, from sunlight.
That was a great explanation, and we're getting a really good view right now of the polyps of a coral. You can see each little circle there, each little sort of bump or wart-like projection is the singular animal. It is the polyp. So as Pat mentioned, polyps are in the same family as jellyfish. So you can imagine, as jellyfish are well known for their stinging, you can actually get inflicted with a painful wound from coral as well. So it's really important that we never ever touch the coral for ourselves and for the benefit of the coral. Now, they do estimate there's about 65 approximately different species of hard coral here in the Caribbean. And right in front of us we have another one. Good job, Brianne. So it's not as diverse as the Indo-Pacific region, but there is a lot of coral here. And one thing I've noticed compared to my life in the Indian Ocean, the coral is much, much healthier here in Grand Cayman. What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, well, honestly, I haven't had that much experience with coral reefs. So I come from a temperate area, so the very bottom of Australia, where we don't really get coral reefs. But from what I have seen of coral reefs around the world, this definitely does look in good condition. Now, I have found, it's not an indigo hamlet, but I did find a hamlet down here. Let me see if I can...
Oh, this will be make James very happy. He does like the hamlet.
Where has it gone?
I'm sure we'll find it. They do like to hide, but once we find them, it's a great thing to have in front of us.
Ah, here it is. So, just here we are, that fish in amongst that little school of wrasse and parrotfish in the middle there.
And which species of hamlet did you say this was, Pat?
I'm not sure. I believe it might be... Oh no, it's not a marsh hamlet. I'm not sure what species of hamlet this is actually. They are notoriously hard to identify as they can produce vibrant. So different species of hamlets can produce offspring together.
Yeah, and it's quite small. I wonder if this is an adolescent. It's not full size, is it? I think this might be the barred hamlet.
Yes, that sounds about right. And yes, we can see that it does have those little white bars running along its body. So this is a nice sighting. We don't often see hamlets here on the reef. They are here in higher numbers, but they also tend to inhabit the deeper waters. So to see them in the shallow waters when they're not hiding is really special.
Yeah, we're getting such a lovely view of it. I don't think it's quite sure what to do with us watching it. But hamlets are actually simultaneous hermaphrodites. So we do talk about hermaphrodism a lot on diveLIVE because it's so common amongst fishes. But simultaneous ones means that they have both male and female sex organs at the same time as an adult, not as a juvenile. So it does make them one of the few vertebrates that are actually both male and female. So they do not practice self-fertilization, but when they meet a mate, they actually take it in turn to see which one is going to act as the male first, and then the other one will follow suit and become the female. So it's quite an interesting sex life of the hamlets, and it's still giving us a good view.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hermaphrodism is a very, very weird and cool topic, I think. You know, guys turning into girls, girls turning into guys, guys being guys and girls at the same time. I mean, it's a lot to wrap your head around, but I think it's a super interesting concept.
Yeah, it is a lot to get your head around, but it's just so common in the animal kingdom, in the fish world. So a lot of the fish will change sex throughout their life, so they'll be born one sex and they will change. But this hamlet, the barred hamlet that's right in front of you, they will actually be both male and female simultaneously. So it is a lot for us to wrap our heads around. But it's a great survival technique, so in times of low maybe population declines, or they're not able to find their mate, when they do meet with another hamlet, they are actually able to mate because they have both sex organs. And maybe, Pat, this is why they're so able to produce hybrids.
Yes, well, that's actually a good thought there, Lauren. We should research this together a bit later.
I do have good thoughts sometimes.
No, you're great. So, I have spotted a cowfish, I believe, over here.
Oh, and I believe Pat took a little hesitation there, because cowfish and trunkfish are almost the exact same. You just have to look a little bit closer to see if there's spines above the eye to know that it's a cowfish. So I imagine that was what you were doing?
Yes, I am still a little bit away from it.
No worries, it's beautiful going on top of the reef right now. Oh, I can see it. So right ahead in the distance is a cowfish, that awkward looking box-shaped fish. And we do have a schoolmaster in front as well, for anyone wondering. That yellow fish is a schoolmaster snapper.
Yeah, it's being a little bit difficult every time we get... Oh, there's two of them here, actually. So we have a pair. One is a darker colour, and it actually looks like it's changing colours right now. It's kind of going darker and lighter.
Yeah, so I think that is the smooth trunkfish. Are we able to get a little closer look at its face?
And you can see it's got a very, very odd, almost box-shaped body. And this is because the skeleton is very, very oddly shaped. It kind of protrudes down past their ribs and makes a very hard covering over their organs. So this is a really good defense mechanism, because fish aren't really predatory fish aren't really going to want to bite it, because they can't get to the organs or the meat. They've just got a mouthful of bones.
Oh, we're getting such a beautiful view of this. So you can see there's actually two spines at the back of the body. We can see them really, really well. I've never noticed them before on this fish. So yeah, that's another way of making it very awkward to swallow. I'm sure many fish think, I'm not going to try that one. They are quite shy, so this one is kind of hiding a little bit from us. But their skeletons are very intricate, and I've found a boxfish skeleton before, and it just looks like tiny little pieces of a jigsaw that would take ages to put back together. So they've obviously adapted this skeleton to avoid getting eaten by predators.
Now, this is quite cool. I'm looking out around me, and I'm literally being circled by squid. So there's about 15 or probably even more, maybe 20, and they're all just lined up perfectly, just watching me.
I was hoping we would see some squid. Let's go and get closer.
I love a good squid sighting there. It's so awesome.
Pat, please share with us your analogy that you use when you're talking about squid.
So we call squid the rock stars of the ocean because they live fast, they die young, and they leave a lot of uncared for children behind in the process. And the male is also known to mate with quite a few different females, so they are the rock stars of the ocean. Most only live to about 1 year, so they die very, very quickly, and the females will actually die after they've given birth.
Yeah, this is called semoparis, and that just is a reproductive term, which means once these animals that we're getting such a good look at, once they do lay their eggs and the young hatch, the females die. And this is the same with octopus as well. So Pat's great analogy of the rock stars, because they do live very short lives. Now these are the Caribbean reef squids.
And they're only very, very small as well. Well, I'd say these ones here are about 10 centimetres, so about 4 inches long.
Kalina's asking, are they sizing you up, Pat?
No, I don't believe so. They're very, very intelligent creatures, so I reckon that they are just curious as to what this strange human is doing. But they actually really interestingly have very similar brains to humans, so they have the two hemisphere shape just like we have, which allows them to be so intelligent despite them being part of the mollusk phylum. So mollusks are your bivalves, like your clams and your mussels, and gastropods like your sea snails, and then somehow squid. And this is because of slow evolution that has led them to the shell to go internally and the mantle of the bottom bit to be modified. So they're amazing. There's no better way to describe it. They are just incredible.
Well, what we're actually looking at is a shoal of squid, and it's such a shame that they didn't use the word squad. A squad of squid would have been much better, and there has been requests in the scientific community to change that, but the correct term is a shoal of squids. And there is some squids in Bermuda area of the Caribbean where people get a little bit confused between a squid and a cuttlefish, because they're really similar, that the name scuttle has now came about. But in front of you, we do have the Caribbean reef squid. How many are there, Pat?
Sorry?
How many squids are there?
Well, when I first spotted them, there was about 15 to 20, but right here there are 6. And we can see that they're constantly just changing colours, and this is due to specialised cells called chromatophores. So the chromatophores are pigment-filled cells. So they're cells filled with pigment, and the cell is surrounded by muscle fibres. And so when these muscle fibres either contract or expand, then they will change the orientation of the pigments inside the cell, and this will reflect light differently. So they can change colours so quickly. As quickly as I can, tense my muscles, that's how quickly they can change colour. And it's all controlled by their vision. So their vision actually gives the cues to change colour. And what's really interesting about this is that squid only see in black and white. So how do they pick up these colour changes? And that's because of the shape of their pupil. Well, it's believed by scientists that's because the shape of their pupil actually kind of, it's like if you take a black photo and sometimes it's out of focus and there's a smudge of colour that comes off the black, and they kind of believe that that is the same thing that's going on in a squid's eyes.
Wow, you're so full of knowledge about the squid. There is some talk about using the hashtag, so we just require you to use that hashtag diveLIVE on Twitter. For all other chat forums, we will receive your questions and comments. And interestingly enough, both octopus and squid have completely bright blue blood. their blood is not red like ours. And this is because they use a different protein and it relies on copper rather than iron. So we have iron in our blood and theirs is copper. So that results in a different coloration and it means blue blood. So it's really bizarre to see this, but both squid and octopuses have blue blood.
Wow, that's amazing.
So my grandmother has just joined. Hi Pauline, thank you for joining the dive, and I do hope you enjoy the sightings of the squid that we have right now. So depending on where you see the squid, it normally relates to its life cycle. So when they're very young and they're just born, they will hide out very close to the shore, very shallow in amongst the vegetation. And then when they're a little bit older, sort of teenagers if you like, they will congregate near seagrass and hide out there, but they need to be deep enough to avoid the birds swooping down and getting them. And then when they're adults, they will venture out into the open ocean. So the fact that we can see them now in a big squad, or should I say shoal, means that they're ready to mate. So all these squid have came to this part of the reef to mate with one another. Are we able to get close to them again?
Yeah, well, on our way there, let's have a look at this Nassau grouper as well.
Oh.
Nassau grouper.
Yes, grouper. We haven't seen a Nassau grouper in a while. Oh, yeah.
So groupers are a very predatory fish. We can tell because they have robust jaws, and if this guy was to open its mouth, you'd see a lot of little crafty teeth that it used to hold onto its prey and make sure that once it's got it, it's got it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We really don't see the Nassau grouper that often. That's not fully adult form, is it, Pat?
No, it's still a juvenile, I believe. It's probably about 60 centimetres long, so a little bit over 20 inches.
Oh, it's hiding.
Yeah, so groupers are really good hiders. They can stay very, very still, and we'll quite often see them doing exactly what this one's doing now, just poking its head out of cracks and crevices.
You can see that big grumpy mouth. But it is a big mouth, and it is used for when it's catching its prey, so that is a really good predator.
Wow, this is a great sighting. As Lauren said, we don't see them very often here on the reef at Casuarina Point, so it's always really special to see one.
Yeah, normally we see the tiger grouper.
Yeah. I would also love to see one day a Goliath grouper as well, a really big one. Those guys can get massive. They can get up to 6 feet long, so, you know, 1.5 meters to 2 meters. Yo!
One day we will. We do have a big long list of all the things we want to show you all, so it will happen. Now, did we lose sight of those squid? People are... Oh, I can see them, I think, in the background.
No, they are still here, so let's go back over and say hello again.
So Helen was asking, do they all swim together? So I did earlier mention the different sort of stages in their life, so they're different habitats. But these ones are swimming together because they're probably communicating with one another that they're ready to mate. They're probably giving each other lots of signals that we can't even see. So that's why they're all together in one group, to find a mate.
They all move very in sync. They're always lined up very perfectly in the water, almost like in a straight line. Wow, I could just sit and watch squid for an entire dive. They're so majestic, so cool. They're always changing colours, and just their inquisitive nature and how smart they are.
So we have questions about which animals eat the squid, Pat.
Which animals eat squid?
Yeah.
So they are a favourite food of quite a few fish. So obviously the big predatory fish, they love to eat squid, and even like some birds on the surface would like to eat squid. And just about anything that really eats is carnivorous will eat squid. So they're also eaten a lot by sharks. And they're a very, very popular fishing bait. And that is because they are enjoyed by a wide range of creatures.
Yeah, nurse sharks love a good squid meal as well. And actually, when a squid is retreating from a predator, when it's trying to hide, they will signal that to others, and their entire body goes really white. It goes really, really pale, and they will almost always ink. So they spread this ink in the predator's face to try and escape, so the predator will not be able to see. And Lady Starfire said, Pat, that her husband says these squid are applying to join the Thunderbirds the way they're all lined up there. So they're obviously just swimming in front of you. They're not bothered by your presence there.
No, I think that they're smart enough to tell that I just want to hang out with them. They really are such an intelligent animal.
Yeah, and they are actually voracious predators themselves. So a lot of animals like to eat them, but they are also really good predators. And they typically consume between 30 to 60% of their body weight daily. So they eat a lot. And they do catch their prey using these club-like tentacles, and they feed the prey to their mouth, where there's a really sharp beak that we can't actually see right now that will cut up the prey so that their tongue can process it.
And I don't know whether you can see it now, but you might be able to. They have just underneath where their eyes are. Oh, they're putting on a real good colour show right now. Just underneath where their eyes are is a little siphon, and that's what they use to move. So it's constantly pushing out air and moving them forwards, or well, backwards, I suppose.
So Pat, Monique is asking about the inking. How does it work? How does it allow them to get away?
Sorry, can you please repeat that?
Monique is asking about squid ink. How does it actually work, and how does it allow them to get away?
Well, that siphon I was just talking about, so they have a little ink sac that connects to that, and that shoots out their ink. Now, this helps them get away from predators, because obviously if you've got a big jet of ink squirting into your face, you're going to get disorientated and not know where to look, so you'll be a bit blinded. But I have also read that they believe that it's also getting whatever they're trying to escape intoxicated in a way, because squid ink has a very high amount of dopamine in it. Now, dopamine is a feel-good chemical that is released in the brain, and so it makes people feel good, a bit ditzy and that. So they think when they spray the ink in the fish's face, that they get this big release of dopamine, and so they're a bit spaced out or high in a way. And that's another way that squid use their ink to escape predators.
So another example of how they really are the rock stars of the reef.
Yeah, that saying just gets more and more true.
I love it. I'm going to adopt it.
That's alright, I steal enough of your facts, you can steal some of my sayings.
Can we just have an air check, Pat?
Yeah, sure. So, I am on 90 bar.
Oh, so we still have plenty of time with these squids.
Yes, definitely. Not moving quickly at all, so we'll be able to stay on them for as long as everybody likes.
So obviously it looks like they are doing a bit of a mating dance to each other here, signaling that they're ready to mate, which means they must be around 6 months old. They don't reach sexual maturity until they're around 6 months old, so we can kind of estimate the age there. And it is a competition, so what happens is the female, between about 2 to 5 males will really compete for one female. And we can see here 2 going off on their own. Maybe they've selected each other. Oh no, they've gone apart. Maybe he is not good enough for her. But the male will actually approach the female, and he will try to stroke her with his tentacles. Now, the female will act in alarm. She will be a little bit scared at that, but he does blow jets of water at her to calm her down. And when she finally chooses him, if she chooses him, then they will continue to mate, which can actually last up to 1 hour. It's a very interesting mating dance, and the male will provide the female with a sticky packet of sperm, which she will attach to her body. And she doesn't actually have to accept this. If she doesn't feel the male was good enough, she can actually toss it away. Very interesting stuff.
Yes, I mean, you can just research squid forever and still always find cool new stuff. Just the way evolution has shaped these animals is just mind-bending sometimes.
So Take Care is asking about what kind of substance is the ink, and that's a good question. It's actually made up of melanin. So we also have melanin in our bodies, and that is what produces the colour in the ink. And it comes in different colours for different cephalopods. So normally the octopus ink is very black, it's much darker. And the squid ink has a sort of bluish black tinge to it, and cuttlefish will be brown. So it's made from melanin.
There is so many of these right here. So that school that we saw earlier has teamed up with another one, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 right here, all standing in a line.
That was a lot of counting, but very accurate.
Yeah, I thought, well, I have the time to do it, why not? Other than estimation.
So this is obviously a shoal of squid that are most likely coming together to display their readiness to mate. And you can just see them all perfectly lined up there. And that bulbous head is the mantle, and it does contain all of their organs, from their stomach to their gills, their ink sacs, their reproductive organs, and their digestive organs. So everything is contained within that bulbous head.
Now, squid, whoa, something obviously just scared them.
Yeah, there was a noise, a loud noise on the surface, and I think that was what just scared them.
Ah, that's interesting. Now what are they doing now? Oh,
this is a perfect formation. They are lined up perfectly.
Wow, this is incredible.
What are they doing?
Yeah, really. It all seems so coordinated, you know. They're obviously doing this for a reason, but...
Maybe they're trying to get you to join their show, Pat.
It's an initiation dance.
Wow. I know we say this a lot on diveLIVE, but this really is a rare sighting, and this is just incredible. Perfect formation of reef squid.
It's so soothing to watch. So fascinating at the same time.
James Richards has actually asked about squids and their buoyancy. Do they have an adaptation for that? We love your questions, James. Do you know the answer to that one, Pat?
How they
control their buoyancy.
Ooh, no, I don't actually. I assume though it's from the siphon that they use. So the siphon pumps air out and keeps them moving. So I guess that would really be the main factor, because I don't believe they have a swim bladder.
Yeah, no, they don't. And many years ago, squid actually contained exoskeletons, a hard shell on the outside. And it's actually over time and throughout evolution, they've lost that. They lost that skeleton, and they don't really contain bone. So that's another adaptation they have to avoid buoyancy issues. But yeah, good question. I would imagine it's from the siphon that they use as well for propulsion.
Yeah, so the earlier ancestors of these squid are a really ancient species called the nautilus. And the nautilus is essentially a squid inside of a gastropod shell, so a coiled shell. And this shell is divided into chambers that is filled with gas, and that's how that controls its buoyancy. But obviously they have lost this shell over the years, so that definitely wouldn't be what they use. So it would have to be the siphon, I would say.
So actually the fact that they lost this external shell in the Jurassic period, that's how long ago it was, that's allowed for changes in the habitat because they can now cope with intense pressure changes. So they can go way deeper than 500 meters just because they ended up losing that exoskeleton. So animals do adapt over time to their environment, so there will be changes in the animals that we see from what they were like many years ago.
And that's all just evolution and natural selection doing what it does best.
And Take Care is asking, is one of them the leader?
Ooh, that's a good question actually. I'm not too sure about that.
No, they won't have a leader. They will just be a group of squid who have reached sexual maturity and just came to the sort of shallow areas of the reef. How deep are you again, Pat?
I'm only at 5 meters, so...
Yeah, so really shallow parts of the reef to signal their readiness to mate. So none of them will be leading. I imagine this will be a selection of male and females. It's impossible for us to tell. And they don't go much bigger than this. This is probably a full-sized Caribbean reef squid. Obviously, other species of squid can grow to absolute phenomenal sizes, but this is the biggest that the Caribbean reef squid will get.
I'm going to have to correct you there, Lauren. I have to say, I would reckon these ones are about half the size of other ones that I've seen here. So I think they can get a little bit bigger than this.
Oh, really? What size would you say they are?
They're only about 10 centimetres, so about 4 inches long. They're very small, these ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they do get a little bit bigger, but not to the size of the deep water squid.
No, so just on that, the diversity of squid is quite insane amongst the species. So the smaller species, the pygmy squids, are about the size of your little thumbnail. And the largest, the colossal squid, can get up to 14 meters long, which is about 40 feet.
Which is huge for a squid.
Yeah, it's huge for anything. These guys literally eat whales, which is unreal.
I can't believe these guys are so small. They look much bigger from behind the screen.
Yeah, no, they're all quite little and cute.
Very cute, and you can see that big eye there. It takes up so much of their body size, and as mentioned, it is the largest eye to body ratio in the animal kingdom. And those undulating fins extend the whole way of the mantle. So from just above the eye to the tip of the mantle, they have that fin. And this is what they use to move as well as their siphon.
Yes, it's pretty much always in motion. I've never seen a squid not undulating that fin there. That's one of your favourite words, isn't it, Lauren? Undulating.
Thanks for that, Pat. Indeed, it is not. I have a thing about words. Some words I like, some words I don't, and undulating is not one of them. So you can't actually see it because they've got all their sort of arms tapered off to a point, but there is 8 arms there, and 8 longer arms and then 2 shorter ones. And they seem to be off on a mission.
Yes, and on that note, I think I will end the dive too, as I am just reaching on 50 bar. So I had a really, really fun time down here today, hanging out with these squid. They've been awesome guests for us to have on the show. They really put on a nice display for us. So I hope you all enjoyed this dive as much as I did.
I did.
Yeah. Thank you, Rian. Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, everyone, for being a part of this and being down here with me. We'll be back here again 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. Grand Cayman time tomorrow. We'll see you there.
Thank you, diveLIVE family. See you tomorrow.